The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
You are now tuned into the PA Power Podcast, College Edition, featuring Pennsylvania natives Tristan Warner and Rob Waltko. PA Power Wrestling. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Pennsylvania wrestling fans, you are now dialed into the PA Power Wrestling College Podcast. I'm your co-host, Tristan Warner, joined as always by Rob Waltko. This is Season 3, Episode 8. And Rob, I guess we're going to call it Season 3, Episode 8 2.0.
Yeah, it feels like it's Groundhog's Day all over again. Shout out to Dyson Gold from Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so we had a pretty lengthy, pretty what I felt was a strong podcast recorded for you guys. Some good stuff in there, but our leader, Jeff Upson, just kind of dropped the ball on this one. It's okay. We'll give him some slack on this one time pass, but here we are with Episode 8 again for the second time. Rob, a lot of good results to go over from the last week. Not a whole lot to preview for this upcoming week. A little bit of a dead week as a lot of the month of December is kind of empty from the beginning to then after the Christmas and New Year's tournaments. But why don't we go ahead and start with the biggest tournament of the weekend, Vegas, which we spent a lot of time previewing, and a ton of good teams. It was probably the marquee tournament or competition of the year to this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the marquee competition of this year, and I mean, for my money, it's probably the best tournament every year, and lots of PA power in action, that's for sure.
You want to go ahead and start us off with what you saw? We can take it weight by weight and highlight at least the PA guys and some of the big upsets maybe that happened. There's just the brackets are huge, so we could spend all night talking about it. But why don't you start us off with the lightweights? Yeah,
so 25 and 33. There wasn't a ton to preview or ton to recap rather on the Pennsylvania front. A couple guys competed. Varndell, Gramacki didn't really have a whole ton of success, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about that. But let's jump into 41 and 49 where there was some PA action. We're going to be lucky enough to be joined by Luke Pletcher tonight on the podcast. And, man, he was the story of the tournament. This dude has been just lights out all year. I mean, the book people thought was out on him. Guy that was really solid, tough to score on, won really close. But he's been beating the crap out of people. He tech-falled Matten in the quarterfinals just off takedowns, goes out and pounds on Chad Red 11-3. I think that was maybe his only win over Red, at least the only one I've seen, and then beats Mitch McKee 10-6 in the finals. He seems to be on an absolute mission. Before we jump into anything else, I think he's owed his own segment. Tristan, what are your thoughts on Luke? Like, where's this guy coming from?
It's crazy. You never know what can do the difference for somebody. Maybe a year or two of college under their belt does it, or maybe jumping up a weight or going down a weight. For him, it just seems like he's a new guy this year. I mean, he's always been an elite level guy, but this year, he looks like a man on a mission, number one, and he's just throwing points all over the scoreboard. Almost seems like he's wrestling differently than he has in years past. And even for those who watched him in high school, he was a dominant guy. I mean, dominant in terms of winning big tournaments and being ranked really high in the country. But even then, he won close matches a lot. I never seen him really open up and score points the way he's doing this year. So I'm really excited to get him on the show here and ask him about it and what he thinks has just been the difference this year.
Yeah, no, he's been incredible, man. He's been a lot of fun to watch, and really he's been really the talk of the season for a lot of people. 49, you had two Pennsylvania guys placed in the top 8. Sammy Sasso looked really sharp, beat up on Brett Moore in the second round, beat up on Griffin Perriott, and then got a forfeit in the semis, and then kind of got, I don't want to say got beat up by Lee in the finals, but Lee got the better of him. Lee had a really good game plan. Sasso sat around all day. Didn't really do a whole lot with his forfeit. I wonder if maybe he was a little flat, but he certainly didn't look his best. And then Brock Zackrell ended up 7th. Brayton Lee was on a Pennsylvania beatdown mission. He beats Brock in the quarters. Zackrell took a tough loss to Yaya Thomas in the consies. Respectively, those guys took first and third, so not bad losses by any means. Nice wins over Russell Rofling and Colin Puritan. Solid weekend for both guys. I think both guys have room to improve, but I don't think anything to really be disappointed about. Remember we talked last week, again, didn't get posted thanks to Jeff, but we were saying how the Ohio State guys looked flat the week before. Maybe they were a little bit sick. I don't think they looked flat. I mean, Sasso wasn't his best in the finals, but maybe there was something to that, or maybe they trained through it or just had a bad weight cut. But I thought, Sasso and Pletcher looked much improved this week.
Yeah, I agree. Both PA boys did pretty well for the Buckeyes. Zach Earl, I think, is on the climb. Like I talked about him last week too, or maybe the week before. I was kind of having trouble getting my point across what I was trying to say, but basically, the guy was out a whole season last year, so that's hard enough as it is to come back from an injury. But then, he had to deal with the mental anguish of not knowing if he was even going to be able to wrestle this year. So, it took a really long time for him to find out if he was going to get that 6th year, and he finally did. So, we interviewed him. He had the same mentality. He was positive. He was ready to go. He has no doubt in his mind that he's going to be a national champ this year. But I just think he probably had to shake some rust off early on. And I think he just, he had a little bit of a battle getting back to where he had left off from almost 2 full years ago. So I think he's steadily climbing, and I think he's going to be a guy that has a better second half of the year than he does first. But that being said, he's already had a pretty strong start, a good place there at Vegas. So strong representation from PA Power there at 149.
No, for sure. 57, Hayden Hidley looked like an absolute buzzsaw until the finals. Similar tournament to Sasso in my eyes. Deacon kind of got the better of him, but keep in mind that Deacon also was very lights out to start last year in really his freshman year. It'll be interesting to see if Deacon keeps this up all year because Hidley is going to be pretty consistent throughout the rest of the year. He looked awesome in the semis, beat up on Kendall Coleman, gave him his first loss of the year, but really couldn't get to his offense versus Deacon in the finals, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, right? You're better off figuring that out now than wait until the day 3 in March. I mean, do you have any concern over Hidley's progression, or is this just a bump in the road for him?
No, I'm not concerned with him. I mean, I think even last year, I know he took a loss to Larry early in the year. No pun intended, and early is super tough for ODU kid. But I just think even last year, Hayden maybe had a couple off matches early in the year, and then gave Jason Nolf literally everything he could have possibly asked for at the NCAA tournament. He was the closest one I've seen to Nolf losing since Imar. So he's shown what he's capable of doing in March.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, Hidley, he maybe best his whole career was in the semi or last year at Nationals. He took a loss to Pantaleo for 3rd, but that's after a long tournament. So I think he'll be better in March for sure.
Exactly my point. Yeah, I think he peaks at the right time. So and like you said about Deacon, it remains to be seen what will happen to him this year. But I think he started off kind of similar last year and then didn't have a great NCAA tournament. So interesting to see both those guys, what kind of trajectory they're on. But yeah, nothing to worry about for Hayden right now. He'll be back to the drawing board. Papalizio coaches those guys up as well as anybody in the country. Moving up at 165, Josh Shields looked really sharp all tournament. Made it to the finals, and then Rob, you've kind of alluded to this a few times now. Isaiah White just kind of seems to have his number. I don't know if it's a style matchup or what. He lost in overtime to Isaiah White. I think that's now the 3rd time dating back to NCAAs last year that those two have wrestled, and White's come up as the victor each time. I'm as high on White as anybody. Watching him wrestle my brother a couple years ago at the D2 Nationals when he wrestled for Notre Dame College, I saw the athleticism and the technique and the skill that kid has. I mean, he's an amazing wrestler, but Shields amazing in his own right. Just seems that White has his number.
Yeah, I'm sure you've wrestled guys that you either feel really comfortable against and just see everything coming, or vice versa. And it's like, man, this guy just, he smells out everything I have. And when I watch that match, that's just how I see it. Like, I think those guys could wrestle 10 separate guys and probably have varying results. I'm not saying Shields is better than White. I think he could probably beat guys that White can't, or beats guys worse, or whatever it is. But it's just something about that style that really throws him off. So we'll see, man. I mean, Shields, I like him. He's a Western PA guy. I'd love to see him, beat guys like White or really beat anyone that's not from Pennsylvania. So, kind of sucks, but, White's a stud. He's really, really, really good, and he just has Shields' number. What did you see?
Oh, sorry, real quick. I just wanted to say, not to go too much off tangent, but I'm just curious. Did you ever have anybody in your career that was kind of similar? As soon as you started talking about that, I immediately thought of Robert Kokesh, who also wrestled at Nebraska. I don't think I wrestled him in college, but I wrestled him a couple times in high school. And I just remember every time I wrestled him, it was like this guy's style, something weird about it. I couldn't score any points. I don't know if I ever even scored a point on him. It was always like 3-0, 4-0, something about that. I don't know why I couldn't break through that. Did you ever have a kind of similar experience?
Honestly, from a losing standpoint, I don't know. Chris Heinrich was kind of like that in high school for me, but it was the opposite where I just kind of felt him. He would beat guys all the time that would beat me, but I would just get the better of him. Something about our styles just didn't work out well for him. Maybe Landis Wright. We were kind of back and forth. That's Quentin's brother, but I typically had better results than him. But there was just something about him that was really difficult for me. I'd have to think about it though. Going back to my Pee Wee days, getting Dave Pisarcik from up the road from Mars. He ended up wrestling at Purdue, but I think he was just better than me. But I remember feeling helpless wrestling him as a 10-year-old. What did you see at 74, Tristan, that you liked?
Mike Labriola, I thought, looked pretty good. He dropped a tough loss to Dylan Leidy, but that's a guy that you've been real high on all year. I know you've talked about him. He's a Purdue guy, and he's gotten better every single year. He's super tough and also really hard to score on. I might be wrong, but I want to say Labriola and Leidy wrestled in maybe the blood round last year at NCAAs. If not, it was Ben Harvey. I got them mixed up because those Army and Purdue singlets look awfully similar from the crowd. But one of them, they wrestled and they went into like a couple ride-outs. It was like one of those matches where you go into like the second tiebreaker and like the one guy wins on like 1 extra second of riding time, something like that. Clearly nobody was getting a takedown in that match. So I don't know if it was Leidy or Harvey, but either way, I think those guys are very evenly matched and both hard to score on, strong dudes. So other than that, though, I'd say Labriola had a good tournament. He beat Skatska from Minnesota in the Conci semis, who's an All-American. So overall, I'd say he had a good tournament.
Yeah, no, Leidy and him have been really close a few times. I think they're 3-3 versus each other now. But yeah, he beat him in the blood round last year. They're just, they're built the same. They kind of have similar attacks a lot of the times. I think it's just they kind of cancel each other out. 84, you had Trent, Hoagie Boy Hidley get in the finals, piled up some wins over Owen Webster. Taylor Lewan, really good match in the semis. And then Zahid just went out and kind of took it to him a little bit. I honestly was just telling some of my friends, I was like, Hidley's going to be really competitive in this match. He's going to hold him off. But Zahid looked like he had something to prove, and maybe Trent got overwhelmed a little bit. I don't know. I think he can close the gap come March. I don't know if he can quite beat Zahid. I know he thinks he can beat him. I don't think those kids are scared of anyone. But do you think that this is someone he can close the gap on, or is he just a level above him right now?
I definitely think he can close the gap. The way I see it, those Hidley boys, I wouldn't count them out against anybody, not necessarily to win, but kind of similar to, Hayden going up against Nolf last year. There wasn't one person in the entire crowd that would have said Hayden's going to upset him here, except for maybe Hayden, Trent, and his parents, So, I think those guys don't back down from anybody, as we've kind of seen with Trent so far this year. He had that one weekend where he went up against DePrez and Darmstadt in the same weekend, and a lot of people are thinking it's pretty hard for a freshman to come in and beat a top 10 guy and then to beat two of them in the same weekend, and he went out and did it. So, I think there's no limit to what he can accomplish this year. I think Zahid is a veteran guy who, is world-level talent. So I don't know that he will be able to necessarily beat him by the end of the year. Obviously, as a PA Power fan, hope it happens, but I think he can definitely close the gap, and I think he can get more comfortable in that match and have a little bit more confidence in himself going forward, especially as he gets a whole year of college under his belt. Yeah,
I just think the match kind of got away from him early, but certainly I'd love to see them wrestle again. 97, Jake Woodley had a pretty good tournament, I thought. Another one where we had two place winners because Bolsack wrestled really well too. Woodley took fourth. I think if you had said going in he was going to take fourth, it would be like, okay, great tournament. Got wins over Schultz and Sloan, but lost two that I thought he could have won. Christian Brunner, who he kind of beat up on this summer, beat him on a riding time point, and then he lost to Thomas Lane, who's a really difficult matchup. Tough on top. You have to be kind of careful with him, but Woodley keeps climbing the rankings, so I think all in all a good weekend for him. Greg Bolsack, nice win over Tanner Sloan, beat J.I. Ello, who's the 2 seed. Bullsack, man, you got to love his upside. That dude's. Have you seen him, Tristan? I mean, he is a horse. And he's like a big gymnast. Like, he's really big and strong, but he's really flexible and good hips. So he just makes for really tough matchups on guys.
I think I watched him in high school last time I saw him. I mean, I've definitely seen him wrestle in college, but the last time I really remember taking note of how he wrestled, I think it was in the state finals, and I think he like tech falled or majored somebody, and I just remember thinking he was pretty dominant and pretty impressive to watch. Obviously, that changes a little bit once you get to college, and you're not the big dog dominating necessarily, but I mean, he's been very talented, and he's also a guy that's gotten better every year. Strikes me as kind of a gamer. Doesn't really seem like he backs down from anybody. He can win big matches, and he puts up points. So yeah, definitely an impressive guy.
Yeah, awkward skill set too. He gets like a lot of reversals. He's tough on top. He's that guy that's got that weird style that can make a run through the consolation brackets at a big tournament. Checking out some dual meet action. Pitt Panthers with a good weekend. Beat up WVU 29-6, then shut out Drexel. Wenzel beat Iba Jarrell 8-4 or 9-5, but it was 8-4 after the first period. A couple of reversals and back points for each guy. Greg Harvey beat O'Malley. A little bit of a surprising match, I'd say, but Harvey, I've talked about him before. He's a tough out. Pitt seems to be tough, man. I mean, I think Drexel is really struggling right now. They have had some unfortunate luck. I'm sure their staff wouldn't, chalk it up to luck, but losing guys like Smith, he got very sick. Stillings hasn't stepped on the mat for them. DeSanto obviously leaving. Yeah, they haven't had a whole lot of luck, but I like their staff. But what do you think of Pitt, Tristan? I mean, these guys, how quick has Gavin turned these guys around?
They're really impressive. There's no doubt about that. I mean, they've kind of turned into a team that, you don't really want to count out. It almost seems, looking at Pitt going into the Drexel match, I definitely wouldn't have forecasted this to be a shutout. There was a couple matches here and there that were toss-ups, I would say, and it seems like Pitt came out on the winning end of every single one of them. A guy like Greg Harvey beating O'Malley. Newell Menino, I would have thought would be a toss-up, and Newell won that pretty handily, 10-5. Luke Kemmer pulled out a close win at 49. So, yeah, I would say Pitt is just firing on all cylinders right now, and they have guys like Wenzel who are leading the charge that were guys that really had to prove themselves this year after, maybe not either battling injuries or just not living up to the hype to this point. But, I mean, they've really answered the call. I think Wenzel's still undefeated. Is that right?
Yeah, man. He's been really tough, and he keeps climbing the ranks. He's a beast. Bloomsburg was in action twice. They lost to Bucknell, obviously my alma mater, 24-13, and then 28-11 to Rider. Return of Garrett Hoffman was pretty cool. He gets a 9-2 win. Hoffman, of course, was a national qualifier for Bucknell. Actually has a win over Anthony Cassar. But he's battled some injuries. He's been out for about 2 years. Crowd was really appreciative, gave him a lot of love. So really glad to see him back. He's a big piece for Bucknell. I think he could be a sleeper at heavyweight. Phipps and Hartman also picked up some big wins as well. A guy to watch, I'm telling you right now, for Bloomsburg is Josh Mason at 133. Mason beat up on Darren Miller and then stuck Richie Kohler from Rider. Miller's no slouch, man. Miller beat Todd Small, who ended up fourth in Vegas. And Richie Kohler from Rider is really tough as well. And this Mason guy, he kind of took it to both of them. He's having a really good season, and he's a bit of a sleeper. I don't think he ever placed in the state tournament. Really weird background, but has wrestled really well. And then Allard had a win over George Walton from Rider, who's also solid as well. I mean, those are national qualifier type guys. Bloom's really improved. Did you see we would see this improvement without Willie Gerard, who's like arguably like the program? He is the face of the university wrestling team. I mean, are you surprised that he put him in the lineup? They're really tough.
I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised. I remember when we were going through our weight-by-weight preview, we were going through Bloomsburg's lineup, and there was quite a few guys that I remember going through that were penciled in as starters that I didn't really recognize their names, and when I went through their WrestleStat bio, they didn't really have a very strong record. I feel like we used the statement, they'll be looking to improve upon that this year a lot. And like you said, Gerard was one of those guys that was the ones that I would recognize, and he was notably absent as he was taking a red shirt. So, yeah, I would say I'm a little surprised, but these guys do wrestle really hard from what I've been told. And a guy like Josh Mason that you mentioned, I went through the WrestleStat points leaders. I feel like he's one of the leaders in the country right now. He's gotten a lot of pins, so I don't know what his move is necessarily or what his moves are, but he's been decking a lot of people and putting up good team points for Bloomsburg. Yeah,
he's tough, man. They're doing a good job over there building that program back up. Penn State picked up a few wins this weekend over Lehigh, 23-10, 33-7 over Penn. Starting with the Lehigh match, you had Jimmy Hoffman over Verclaren in overtime. Weird choice by Verclaren at the end. He tried to throw Hoffman in overtime, ends up giving up the takedown. I don't know if he was just gassed, if he just felt something that wasn't there, but it didn't look very good. Brady Burgee was in the lineup, got a win over Humphreys 5-3. Did not wrestle versus UPenn, but that's a good win, man. I think Humphreys is an absolute animal, so that's promising for Penn State. Mark Hall beats Cutler for about the 8th time. A weird scramble there where Hall was on his back trying to avoid a takedown, and if the ref was in position, could have called a fall. Besides that, it was all Hall, but that would have been a nice feather in Cutler's cap. Canal struggled again, took a loss to John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, a.k.a. Jake Jacobson. Aaron Brooks, his red shirt is pulled, and it looks like that Rashid is heading up to 97. I just don't know if Canal quite has the juice. Sounds like he may have got hurt versus UPenn as well. So his season and or career might be coming to an end. And then Anthony Cassar over Jordan Wood, 9-4. Before you get into the recap, Tristan, I want to ask the Tiger Wrestling Club trivia question of the week. When was the last time that Lehigh beat Penn State? What year was that? You don't have to answer now, but give us some thought later on.
Okay, yeah, I like the topic. We're going to be starting to incorporate our trivia questions, at least one per episode. So we'll ask it somewhere near the beginning, middle of the episode, and then we'll come back to it at the end and see if our fans can figure it out, and then get some interaction on social media. Getting back into the individual results here. Good win for Berge. Good to see that he's back and healthy after taking an injury, wrestling overseas in freestyle not too long ago. And then Brooks, that's really exciting stuff for Penn State. He's one of the most talented young guys that they have. I think a lot of people have been waiting to see him get in the lineup and get back into folk style. So him getting a 10-5 win over Chris Weiler, who's definitely a tough kid for Lehigh. Good win for him in his first dual meet action for the Nittany Lions. And then what you said about Rashid going up to 97 is interesting. Do you know when he'll be healthy?
I've heard different things. I've heard that there's been wrestle-offs in the room. I heard that he lost to Brooks and then beat Cannell. I don't know how accurate that is, but it sounds like he should be back. I don't know. They said after the new year, but if he's wrestling off, he has to be relatively healthy, but who really knows?
And it's probably important to note that he has wrestled at 97 before and been successful. Last year he was down at 84, but as people may remember, that was him dropping a weight class from 97. So a couple of years ago, before Bo Nickel went up to 97, Rashid was the 97-pounder. I want to say he was in the NCAA semis that year against
Rashid.
Was it? Yeah, wasn't it against?
He lost to Machiavello in the quarters.
Machiavello, exactly.
Cannell.
Quarters.
Yeah.
Okay. Quarterfinals. I remember he was in a dogfight with Machiavello. I think that was a match that he was winning in the third, and it got slipped away from him. And Machiavello went on to win the title. So he's obviously can contend at 97 if that is the route that they choose to go.
Yeah, I honestly think this might work out better. This might be their best lineup. I mean, not that Kale's asking for either of our approval, but I mean, I think he could make a real serious run at 97. He's a very, very good athlete. 84 just seems to be a really tough weight, so who knows? Meredith for Penn State, though, how about him getting a win over Michael Colicolo from Penn? It looks like he might be taking over that 125 spot, and maybe not Teskey.
Yeah, that was a huge win for him. I mean, honestly, if you would have told me that was going to happen last week, I would have told you you're crazy. I didn't see that coming at all. We just talked to Roger Reyna on the phone a couple weeks ago in the interview, and Kolioko, I think it is, he's one of the best young wrestlers in D1 right now heading into that match. So I don't know if Meredith just kind of caught him on an off day or what that was, maybe a style thing, but huge win for a Penn State backup who's pretty unheralded, a Springford kid, I believe. So he goes out and gets majored 15-5 by Paetzel from Lehigh, and then pulls out a win over a top 10 kid who was undefeated, I think.
Yeah, I know that Joe Youngblood, that has to be bittersweet for him. Mr. D1 himself hates to see the Penn freshman losing, but at least he loses to a Springford or District 1 guy. So I guess win-win for Joe, or win-lose, or lose-lose, whatever you want to call it. But I don't know. This probably won't get posted anyway, so who really cares? Keep going to the Lock Haven dual meet. They got hammered by Central Michigan 24-12. Not overly surprising. Like Central Michigan, were you in the MAC with them, Tristan? They're just blue collar, man.
Central Michigan, oh yeah, yep. Borelli, all those guys, yeah. We were wrestled them every year in a dual meet, and then they hosted. What did they? They hosted the MAC tournament one of the years I was there, I think. Maybe not, but I've been up there many times.
So what's most surprising is Shoup got kind of beat up by Dresden Simon, who was 11-2 last year, but is really wrestling well this year. Beat Dylan Duncan. Like, seems like your typical Central Michigan kid that goes from being not very good to tough and just blue collar. So not a great loss for Shoup. He hasn't started the year very hot, but I'm pretty confident he'll be back and in good spirits here soon. Luke Warner got his red shirt pulled. He'd been on an absolute tear on the open circuit. Loses to Hildenbrandt 3-2. Not a terrible result. That kid's really tough, and Warner's obviously right there. Clucker lost to Logan Parks, who's solid, but maybe not what Lock Haven expected. But I think they'll be fine. Bad dual meet here and there isn't the end of the world.
Yeah, I agree. Clucker's a tough guy. I think he's only has a handful of losses this year. I mean, he was on a tear in the beginning of the year. Parks, I feel like, has been around for as long as I can remember. I almost feel like he was there when I was wrestling. So he's a veteran guy as well. That's a match between two guys that are both tough and have been around for years. So not too surprising to see it go in favor of Parks. But like you said, Clucker's that guy. He's been a two-time national qualifier already. I think both times he's gone either 0-2 or 1-2. He just needs to find a way to bridge that gap and become a guy that's contending for All-American status. But right now, he's hovering around those. Maybe around that 20 mark in the rankings. So he's just going to try to have to get to the next level here in the last year of his senior year.
So what do you think of Iowa this weekend? Kind of a, I guess, up and down match for the Pennsylvania guys over in Princeton.
Yeah, at first I was kind of surprised to see that Spencer Lee wasn't in the lineup. But, Rob, I think you let me know he's resting up for freestyle. Is that right?
That's what it sounds like. I mean, they announced earlier in the week that he wasn't going to compete. So I think they're probably just, 2 weeks from now, I believe, is the U.S. Open. They might be just peaking for that.
Yeah, I would have definitely liked to, selfishly from a fan perspective, to get him to see him out there against Pat Glory again. But, those two will see each other again, I'm sure. DeSanto dismantled another PA state champ, true freshman, Sean Pearson out of Nazareth, 25-10, just pouring it on. DeSanto right up there with Pletcher for most dominant / most exciting guys to watch so far of the year so far from a Pennsylvania standpoint, really in the whole country, I would say. But yeah, tough loss for Caleb Young. That's 2 for him now. Obviously lost a tough one to David Carr from Iowa State a couple weeks ago, and then this one, a 3-2 loss to Monday from Princeton. Both those guys, Monday and Carr, are super athletic guys. Looks like he just came up short. One takedown, I think, was the difference. What were your impressions of that dual meet?
Nothing too crazy. Pearson, he's tough. He wrestled hard. He just got outmanned there. DeSanto's a different animal. Pearson's probably a 25-pounder. So, wrestling up, obviously they got Patrick Glory, so not much he could do there. Young, I don't want to say it's disappointing loss. Like, if anytime he loses, it's disappointing, right? He's at the level that you expect him to do really well, and you want to see him succeed. But I figured that was a tough match for him. Monday has a lot of upside. He's wrestling. He's maybe, man, if we had a list of the top 10, 15 improved guys in the country, he'd definitely be on it. But, I think Midlands is a good barometer for Young. He wrestles well there. This is all forgotten. He struggles and keeps losing to the same guys. Maybe not so much, but I'm not really panicking about him. Michael Kemmer, though, man, he looks like an absolute beast. I can't wait to see him wrestle Hall. Does he have a chance in that match, Tristan, or am I crazy?
I would say he has a chance. I don't think we've ever seen those two wrestle because Kemmer was a 57-pounder before he got hurt. So we actually haven't really seen him compete at 65 or 74, where Hall's been at 74 his whole career. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Kemmer can go with anybody in the country, though. I definitely think he has a shot, and especially the way Iowa's wrestling right now. It's hard to count these guys out.
No, I'm with you, man. So previewing this week, not a ton going on. You got North Carolina State, App State, Hidley versus Zovatotsky. They were pretty close earlier in this year. And then Lock Haven versus Navy at Red Lion High School. Tristan, you going to make your way over there? That's local for you, right?
That is pretty close, probably about a little over an hour away. I'm not sure. I attended the Lock Haven, Arizona State one last year. It was a really cool environment, really good production. Obviously, guys like Zahid were there, so maybe not quite the same caliber. Both these teams are obviously still solid. You're just not going to have a number one guy in the country, national champ there this year. But still a couple good matches to look at. DJ Failman against Casey Cobb for Lock Haven and Navy. That's two ranked guys. Failman already has a 7-3 win over him at the Navy Classic. Kyle Shoup against Cody Tribus. Tribus was 4-3 earlier this year with him. Rob, is that you say that Tribus beat Shoup earlier this year?
Tribus lost to Shoup. Sorry, my notes are a little bit confusing now. I'm looking at it. Yeah, it was a 4-3 match, but we'll see how that goes.
Because Shoup's only losses this year are to Heil from Campbell and the one he just took to Dresden Simon. Is that right? He hasn't wrestled that many matches yet.
Yeah, those are the two losses.
Okay, so yeah, I would say this match for Shoup is more just to get back on track. I watched him against this event last year against Arizona State, and he needed a tech fall for his team to get the win. I think he eventually got it, but he was just a determined animal on top. I think he chose top in the third, just went for tilt after tilt after tilt, and the Arizona State kid clearly knew his job was just to clam up on bottom, not get turned, and I think pretty sure Shoup found a way in the end, just kept loading up that tilt. So could be an interesting match for him, see if he can close the gap on Tribus now that he's got some matches under his belt. And then at 174, Jared Segrist for Lock Haven. He's a guy that's kind of on the cusp, had a good win last week. He's against Spencer Carey from Navy, so that could be an interesting match as well. Overall, a good dual meet nonetheless. I'm not sure if I'll make it over there or not, but it could be a good one.
What do you have any understand, or do you know what the relation is at Red Lion High School, like why they go there?
No, not off the top of my head. If I thought long and hard about it, I might be able to figure it out for you, but I know they were there last year.
Is Hazel from there, maybe? I don't know. I really don't have a clue.
Hazel's from Penns Valley.
Yeah, it's weird.
I know there's a handful. I mean, if you just look at some of the guys that have All-Americaned for Lock Haven in the last 5 years, you got Ronnie Perry is from Solanco, Dan Neff is from Solanco, and Chance Marsteller is from Kennardale. All of those are York area schools or Lancaster area, surrounding, and Red Lion is down there by York. So they've had quite a few. And then Kyle Shoup is Boiling Springs, so he's District 3 as well. So I'd say, yeah, they're 4 All-Americans they've had.
Segrist is Manheim Central.
Yeah, Segrist is Manheim Central. But 4 of those All-American guys are all from District 3, so I don't know if that has something to do with it.
Yeah, I figure it does, but I just I'm wondering if anyone's from Red Lion. Regardless, pretty cool. I watched an interview with Josh Moore over at Cleveland State. Shout out to them. They got a MAC win over Buffalo last week. That's a good win for that program. But they're going to try to wrestle at Franklin High School, where the Moore boys are from. Cleveland State versus Lock Haven next year. So that's pretty cool, and that makes sense. That's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, like we talked about, it's becoming a new trend, and it was cool. I talked to Matt Hill a few weeks ago, and they wrestled Wisconsin at Sagertown High School, which was awesome. It was an awesome event. It gets the place rocking. You get like a tight, compact gym like that, a high school gym, and you load that thing up with screaming wrestling fans. That's kind of the atmosphere that everybody dreams for and envisions in wrestling. After you watch a movie like Vision Quest, that's what you'd hope for. So I think kind of condensing the atmosphere into something like that is definitely cool for the sport, instead of wrestling in a big arena where it's a quarter of the way full.
So Tristan, back to my trivia question before we get Luke on the phone. When was the last time that Lehigh beat Penn State?
Man, I'm just kind of shot in the dark. I remember as a kid, I was a big Penn State fan, went up to all the matches at Rec Hall, and I definitely remember a stretch of a couple years there. I want to say it was when Lehigh had like the Chisuli brothers and Corey Cooperman and Letters. Lehigh definitely won quite a few of those dual meets, but I'm going to just take a stab in the dark and say 2009. I don't know why.
Weirdly enough, you're correct, and what's weird about that is you're correct twice. So they actually beat them twice in 2009. 2 separate seasons, though. One was January 2009, so that's the 08-09 season. Then they beat them again November 2009 through 2010 season. So yeah, I mean, Lehigh, like you said, back in the Cooperman, Troy Letters, Derek Zink days, they were loaded. Is
that the right era? Do you happen to have the box score in front of you? Was it those guys, or am I off?
That's a little bit past that.
Okay, that's what I thought.
No, so they beat them twice with like the Matt Fisk, Ciasoli, Robert Hamlin, Joe Kennedy, Zach Ray. Zach Ray beat Cameron Wade. Molinaro, Kyler Sanderson, Valamont picked up wins for Penn State. Valamont beat Mike Galante 5-2. If you remember that guy, I just remember him just always sprinting around out of the arena after he won or lost. Brad Pataki beat John McDonald. So, not maybe the star power that either program's had, top tier, but definitely some of those solid guys that, we grew up watching as kids in PA.
That being said, Rob, we've been waiting. I know the fans are waiting. You want to go ahead and dial up Luke Pletcher and get him on the line?
Yeah, let's give the champ a call.
All right, PA Power Wrestling fans, we got a treat for you here. It's the number 1 ranked wrestler in the country at 141 pounds. PA proud, Luke Pletcher out of Latrobe, Pennsylvania, wrestling for Ohio State. Luke, thanks for coming on with us.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, before you get started, Tristan, Luke, is it Latrobe or Latrobe? I've heard both.
I think I call it Latrobe. I think it's Latrobe for everybody who lives there, and I think it's Latrobe for everybody else. That's all I've heard.
Yeah, so. I used to work with a girl from there, and I picked up on her calling it Latrobe, and I called it that. She goes, "Oh, wow, you call it that. You're right." But I never hear anyone else say that, so you never know.
Yeah, I think it's Latrobe. I've always called it Latrobe, so we'll stick with that.
All I can go off is what I've heard the announcers at Hershey say from the time I was 5 years old, and all I've ever heard is Latrobe. So that's all the knowledge I have. But nonetheless, Luke, just jumping right in, the big question, what's been the difference for you so far this year? I mean, you've always been an elite guy. This year you just look like you're on a mission, though, and you're just scoring points like crazy. What is the difference for you this year so far?
I don't know. Just I think just a little bit a change of, not that like it's my last year and putting pressure on myself, just like knowing that, this is my last shot to get what my goal's been for a long, long time. So I think that just, having more energy in my matches, and yeah, just trying to put up more points and just create more wrestling. And I think the more wrestling that happens, the better chance it is for me. So just getting points on the board early and making a guy wrestle a little bit more. So I think that's been the difference so far.
Luke, you mentioned, just trying to get that goal. What caused you to go up to 141? Like, were you struggling last year, but it was better for the lineup? Did you just get big over the summer and said, you know what, I'm not going to cut as much weight? And are you having any issues making the weight now, or is it completely natural? Like, what went into that decision?
It was just like something I was thinking of. I like wrestling a lot, and making 33 was tough, but it was doable. I did it for 2 years and made weight at every duel. I don't think I missed a duel, and it's just, I don't know, just I was having a lot more fun, just in the summer practicing. I just felt like I was getting better, and I wasn't worrying about my weight. I was just getting better, having fun with it. And, I felt like, when you're in the practice room, you wrestle bigger guys all the time, and it didn't really, like, the strength wasn't an issue. And I just felt like I was getting better and wasn't worrying about my weight. And, I talked to the coaches and, asked what they had to think about it. And, I just felt like 41 was the best option for me to be the best version of myself, just like trying to get the most out of myself in my last year. So and I talked to my dad a little bit about it too. Just like, I don't know, I felt like at 33, I was good. I just didn't have the same, I don't know, there was something different. I just didn't trust maybe if I could last the whole, like if I could go at a broke neck pace and, just for 7 minutes, I didn't know if I could do that at 33, but just, I don't know, just having more fun with it. And it's been good so far. So I'm happy about the decision.
Do you feel like you're surprising guys with the pace you're wrestling at this year? Like we said, you've always been a winner, maybe not lighting up the scoreboard your whole life. I don't want to say you were winning close matches, but maybe not scoring double digits versus top tier guys. Like, do you think they're caught off guard and they're like, where the heck did this come from? Because you're lighting up everyone.
I don't know if I'm surprising them. I'm assuming they all come in, think it's gonna be a hard match, but I'm just trying to, make it a grueling match every time. Hand fight just really, really hard and make it something they don't want to do again. and just get them tired. And every time someone gets tired, they get a lot worse. So just trying to get people tired, hand fight hard, and get to my attacks and see what happens.
Was last weekend the best weekend of wrestling in your college career, or the biggest win of your career?
I don't know. It's good. Like, I'm not like downplaying it all, but it's early, and I'm gonna have to wrestle all those guys again. Big Ten season is coming up, so it was good to get my hands on. I like wrestling the people and just feeling what they have. Like you can watch tape and know what they have, but it's just different feeling them and actually getting like a real life feeling of it, and knowing their reactions to things. So it's been good so far. I've been able to wrestle a lot of the top guys and just get a feel for how they wrestle. So I don't know if it was the best weekend, or I'm not really looking at it in that way, but it was just a good start to the season and good. I always like going out to Vegas. It's always good competition, so it was fun.
Luke, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. We always like to ask people about why they chose the college that they chose. I'm sure you've been asked this a lot now that you're a veteran guy, but as a PA guy, first of all, what led you to Ohio State? And then also, how involved have you been trying to lure other PA boys? Obviously, you got Sasso and Gavin Hoffman there now. How involved have you been with trying to get other PA kids to head out to Columbus?
I've been involved. I mean, obviously Ohio, they're proud of their state, and I give them a bunch of crap for it, just saying how PA is the best because it is. And so I push our recruiter, Coach Ralph. You guys probably know who he is, but I push him and tell him. I give him all the scoop on all the good guys. I kind of lost touch of some of the high school guys after I graduated, but I have a little brother who's a sophomore now, so I been following those kids ever since he's been wrestling for a long time. So I know the names of the good kids now. So I put a good word in for the PA boys. But I chose to go to Ohio State. I don't know. I wanted to go somewhere where I knew where it's been done before. Something like they constantly put out national champions, and it's just a good environment. And yeah, I love the coaches. I love the guys on the team, and it was just a good fit for me.
I love that quote that you said about PA is the best just because it is. I went to a college in Virginia where most of my team was in the Midwest, and I had to defend my case almost every single day. I feel like we should make a poster and just put that quote up there with Luke Pletcher's picture on it. So I appreciate that quote.
It's the truth. So
absolutely, it's not opinion; it's fact based. Over your few years at Ohio State, how would you say the culture of the program has changed? Just looking from when you were a freshman and now, when you were the young guy, there were some veteran guys on your team winning national titles, and now you're a veteran guy, but there's a lot of young guys on your squad this year.
Yeah, it's definitely different because I feel like time just goes fast, and I was in the lineup as a true freshman, just like the young guy going to the new tournaments and just kind of getting a feel, asking them questions as I was going along. But now all of a sudden I'm a senior with a bunch of young guys asking me questions. So I think the only thing that's different now is just these people, the kids on our team are just unproven. They're really good. They just haven't proved it to everybody else yet. So it's just been a different feeling, I guess, just as a team and in general when we go to compete, because we know who they are. We know they're tough, and it's just a matter of time before they show the rest of the country who they are. So it's been pretty cool. It's just a lot more learning and growing this year. So it's been pretty fun.
Luke, you've been surrounded by a lot of studs since you've gotten there, bigger, smaller, older, younger, whatever it might be. Who's been the funnest to work out with, and who's maybe given you the most trouble?
I loved wrestling with McKenna when he was here. We would spar a lot. He was just really smart at wrestling. He just knew wrestling so well. So he was always someone I could spar, and we just bounce questions off each other and play in different positions. And he helped me a lot. Stever, when I was a freshman, when I first got there, I wrestled with him almost every day. We drilled all the time, wrestled live, and he beat the crap out of me. But he was also good. And NATO, me and him, we had some battles. So we had some battles that were tough in the room, and you just had to, get out of the practice room for a little bit and then come back the next day and everything was good. But it's been fun.
Do you still scrap with Jaggers? Does he get on the mat?
He doesn't get on the mat as often, but when he'll probably come like once every 2 weeks, and he'll just practice the whole practice, and then he'll take 2 weeks to recover and do it again. But yeah, he comes in and he'll wrestle hard.
Do you get the better of him, or does he feel pretty good every time he goes out there?
He feels good, but I won't. No comments. I don't want to make me look good or him look good. There'll just be no comment.
And not by good, like is he wrestling good, but like when he can go for that one practice, like he's 100%, he's dialed in and sharp.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh, he's in it. He's making noises. It's fun. He's going all out.
That's incredible. That might be another quote. Man.
He actually did the entire preseason with us this year, every single workout.
Do you guys run a lot? Like he's that insane?
Every run, every lift, every practice, he did everything we did. It was impressive.
I have
it was
nightmares.
Just cool because like, preseason's brutal, but it's just cool to have him do it. And you couldn't complain about how hard it was because here's a guy like our coach who graduated 10 years ago. I don't even know when he graduated, but he's out there doing it and not complaining and showing up the next day ready to go. So that was pretty sweet.
That is incredible. I literally have nightmares probably once every 3 months about like running late to a workout and like my shoes aren't tying right and like I'm getting on the track. That's awesome.
Yep. Getting ready to run the stadium. It's terrible. I'm glad that's over with.
That's more incentive that you can't lose to your coach either. I'm sure the other coaches are getting on you guys if you're getting surpassed by Jaggers.
Yeah, because we'll have like a conditioning test as soon as we come back, and he would always give us crap how he could beat the time, and then he'd like go run it on the treadmill and beat like half our team. So this year he just showed up and ready to rip. It was fun.
Luke, looking ahead to the rest of this year, like you said, this is your last year to go out and capture this. What would you say you need to do, if anything else, besides what you're already doing, to make sure that you're the national champ at the end of this season?
Just focusing on right now. I'm just focusing on bottom, finishing my takedowns a little bit, and just tying more things together. I think right now, just like not that I'm not tying them together, but just tying a couple more shots together. A little bit more chain wrestling from just like having 3 or 4 shots off of one tie, and tying 2 or 3, 4 or 5 shots together, and just make sure I'm in the best shape of anybody. And just keep bringing the heat.
And then after that, do you have any future plans? Do you know if you want to jump right into coaching, or do you want to keep competing and do some freestyle, or have you thought about that at all yet?
Yeah, I've thought about it. I want to compete, but I also want to coach. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. I would like to wrestle a little bit after college. I just think it'd be something that I just want to have under my belt and say that I did it, and compete and try to make a world team. And I'm excited for that. But for right now, I'm just worrying about the task at hand. We'll handle that when the time comes.
Rob, do you have anything else for Luke?
No, let's just if you want to get the wrap-up question for him.
Yeah, Luke, at the end, we always like to ask people, there's probably young kids, high school kids, coaches, parents, whatever it may be, listening to this. We give everybody a minute to just kind of give a sales pitch, if you would, for Ohio State. What is it about your program that should entice these guys to want to join your program and want to continue their academic and athletic careers for the Buckeyes?
So if I'm selling Ohio State, I would say that the team as a whole, as from the time I've been here till now, has grown just in a way that like we're all just all good friends, all get together, all trying to do the same exact thing. We all work hard together. The coaches are great. They'll support you in anything. They'll go the extra mile for you. And it's been proven that we can win here. I think success speaks for itself. So I think other than that, we're good. We have a strong culture where we just focus on being good people and striving to do the right things. So I think this is a good place to come and not only grow as a wrestler, but just grow as a person. I the coaches just help me. We have leadership meetings that I didn't like when I was a freshman or sophomore. I hated going to them, but they help you grow as a person and think about life in different ways. And yeah, since the time I've been here, I just feel like I've grown so much as a person, as well as a wrestler. It's just, I have nothing but positive thoughts about this place, and this is the best place, and I have no complaints.
Positive infinity, I think, is what you guys say. Is that right?
You could say that.
Luke, I know we said that was the last question, but those leadership meetings, that's interesting to me. You said you didn't like them for a while, then you kind of started respecting them or enjoying them. Was there a time in your life where something you learned there came in handy, or was there like that aha moment where you're like, wow, like that what we learned in that meeting a year ago really is ringing true right now? Or did you just mature and learn to appreciate them?
Yeah, I think I just matured. Nothing like it doesn't really change. It makes you think, like, it's more or less just like making your values and keeping them in mind. You write a lot of things down, and when you come to college and I think I was 20 or 19 or whatever I was when I first came here, and you think you're the hot stuff, and you come here and you realize there's a bunch of tough kids, and you're not the hottest kid on the block. So you just grow up and learn different ways to. Life's gonna be tough sometimes. It just helps you kind of keep grounded and just focusing on different things. Whatever you hold as like your standard or whatever it may be, just to focus on those things.
Awesome. Well, Luke, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. We wish you the best of luck this year, and I'm going to start making that poster.
That sounds good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good luck, Luke.
Fun. Thank you.
All right. We just got done talking to Ohio State's Luke Pletcher, ranked number 1 in the country at 141, having a dominant senior season. We wish him the best of luck for the rest of the year. Hope he captures that NCAA title, and we really thank him for coming on the show. That's going to wrap it up for us for Season 3, Episode 8. As always, thanks for listening. Fans, please go ahead and give us a like or a share on social media to spread the word about the PA Power College Wrestling Podcast. Until next week, for Rob Waltko, I'm Tristan Warner, signing off.